Well, thank you for joining us for your 5+ weekend wrap. I'm Morgan Wrigley. We start with the latest on the capture of the suspect accused of shooting a law enforcement officer in Webbers Falls. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol issued that alert last Sunday evening for Billy Wayne Williams. He's in custody now. 5 News reporter Jacob Luthi has been following the story, and he has the latest on the suspect's arrest and an update on the officer's condition.
She is home and she's doing well. Actually, she's ready to come back to work.
Webbers Falls Police Chief Mike James says his force of just 7 officers was deeply affected after hearing one of their own had been shot.
We're a very close-knit family here, and everybody pulled together. All of our officers showed up on scene within minutes, even ones that don't live in the area.
The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation says the injured officer suffered an apparent gunshot wound to the face following a traffic stop on Sunday evening. The altercation happened near Smith and Lynch Streets in a small town of just 300 people.
One of the lowest crime rates. This is just a fluke thing that happened. Happened to be the wrong guy passing through at the wrong time.
More than 700 miles away, Grant's Police Department in New Mexico says they found suspect Billy Wayne Williams' vehicle in a parking lot Monday morning. They say police tried to contact the suspect, who then shot himself. Williams was taken to a hospital where he remains in critical but stable condition. Multiple agencies, including the FBI, OSBI, and local police departments, are now all working to figure out why the events unfolded the way they did.
It was a great effort across many jurisdictional lines to get this guy caught.
Chief James says he is proud of the work of his officer.
She did a fantastic job. She is very professional. She was joking around a little bit today, pardon my smile. She was joking around quite a bit today with me on the phone. She is a wonderful person to have employed here.
In Webbers Falls, covering news where you live, Jacob Luthi, 5 News.
We've learned that a Van Buren man who attempted human trafficking has his probation revoked. Crawford County Prosecutor Kevin Holmes says that Michael Hall received a 32-year prison sentence after he was arrested again in Orlando in January. Hall initially received a suspended sentence after pleading guilty to attempted human trafficking, terroristic threatening, and aggravated assault. Holmes says Hall will now serve his full 32-year sentence in prison after the court found he violated the terms. Well, Governor Sanders announces new legislation connected to illegal immigration in Arkansas. The governor says this legislation will do its part in helping the Trump administration keep citizens safe. The bill is sponsored by Senator Bart Hester and Representative Francis Kavanaugh. We checked in with one area law enforcement agency that confirmed with this bill they would have to cooperate with deportations under certain circumstances.
The Defense Against Criminal Illegals Act legislation aims to enhance penalties for illegal immigrants who commit additional crimes while in the natural state. It would also expand Arkansas' sanctuary city ban to include unincorporated areas and counties and add a requirement for Arkansas law enforcement to participate in a program called 287G, which intends to expedite deportations in cooperation with ICE officials.
That doesn't mean we would go out and serve a warrant for someone in the community. What that means is if they were brought to jail on local charges, we could serve that warrant in the jail. And like I said, if we have them that are brought in and we believe that they are indeed in the country illegally, we notify ICE and then they do what they do.
Hobie Runyon, Sebastian County Sheriff, says this legislation should not have an impact on citizens in his county because deputies are not enforcing immigration laws.
The ones that are in the country illegally, unless they're arrested for something else, that would really be the only time that we would have any reason to have any contact with.
According to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the 287G program has 3 models on how ICE enforcement and removal operations can operate. If the legislation is approved, Sebastian County would be participating in the jail enforcement model program.
It would basically allow you to send these people to training for 8 hours, our deputies. And then what they would do is they would be able to enforce warrants that immigration has. So for instance, if our agency or another local agency made an arrest on local charges, and then they brought them to jail, and we discovered that they were illegal, then we would be able to serve that warrant.
In order to pass, the legislation has to go through both the State House and Senate for approval. Well, on the same day that Louisiana carried out its first execution with nitrogen gas, Arkansas's governor signs a bill into law that will allow the practice in the state. This makes Arkansas the 5th state to adopt this method of execution. The state has not carried out an execution since 2017, when it put 4 people to death before one of its lethal injection drugs expired. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court refused to intervene last week in a legal battle over Louisiana's use of the execution method, leading to the state's first use of nitrogen gas to execute an inmate. This execution was the first in 15 years in Louisiana. Lawyers had argued the nitrogen gas procedure, which deprives a person of oxygen, violates the 8th Amendment's prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment. Well, Arkansas lawmakers once again considering another bill this legislative session concerning gender-affirming care for transgender youth. Rebecca Brown spent hours inside the committee meeting last week and brings us the unexpected resistance that stopped the bill.
I mean, it's just a horrible social experiment that's just devastating the lives of people.
Gender-affirming care isn't a new issue, but it's back in the spotlight as lawmakers revisit the topic with a new approach. On Tuesday, Representative Mary Bentley introduced House Bill 1668, also known as the Vulnerable Youth Protection Act.
This bill, in short, will simply return to the mental health treatment these children suffering from gender confusion used to receive, a treatment that, I remind you, is 90% effective.
According to Representative Bentley, the bill allows civil lawsuits against those involved in a minor's social transitioning or procedures like castration, sterilization, or mutilation. It also restricts puberty blockers except when medically necessary.
You will send a clear message that Arkansas will not stand by while families are torn apart and children are subjected to unnecessary emotional harm.
Concerns were raised about the bill's language and intent, including constitutional issues related to free speech of how the bill defines social transitioning. In Tuesday's meeting, the Attorney General's office stated they couldn't defend House Bill 1668 in court due to the First Amendment concerns.
Things like a haircut, even clothing, or even the use of pronouns, right? That's all speech. And so our concern there is that when you are criminalizing, or in this case, providing a civil cause of action for certain things, certain forms of speech, that has to pass a very, very high constitutional bar.
20 people were signed up to speak against the bill, but only a few testimonies were heard.
As a parent, I know my child better than anyone else, especially the government. I ask that this committee vote no on this bill.
Overall, the committee allowed Representative Bentley to withdraw the bill for amendments and to work with the AG's office. In Little Rock, Rebecca Brown, 5 News.
According to the committee chair, the bill is expected to be reintroduced as a special order of business before the end of the legislative session. And Governor Sanders also signed into law the Arkansas Access Act. It's the next phase of her education reform plan, and this bill aims to overhaul the higher education system to align with the Arkansas Learns Act, which was passed in the last legislative session. The plan includes accelerating pathways to colleges and careers, streamlining the admission process, expanding scholarships, and standardizing course credits. Also at the Arkansas Capitol, lawmakers have voted to set aside the money to build a new prison in Franklin County. A joint budget committee approved an appropriation of $750 million. According to its sponsor, State Senator Jonathan Dismang, SB 354 is a first step in advancing the construction of the 3,000-bed facility. But the plan is facing strong opposition from would-be neighbors, and some lawmakers say the amount of money won't be enough to build the prison.
The way this project has been done to date, that we will spend mega millions and we'll find out we need more money.
I struggle to think, what if we don't build this prison? What is the cost to society? What are the costs to the people? How do we answer to the people at home when there's no misdemeanor justice?
An attempt to allocate money for the project failed 2 weeks ago. Consultants hired by the Department of Corrections and the Sanders administration followed with a new cost estimate of $825 million. $75 million has already been approved. And as the budget moved forward, another group is coming forward calling for caution, saying the Franklin County Prison will be built on sacred burial sites. Chiefs Jimmy Kirsch and Justin Flanagan of the Chickamauga Nation tell 5 News they were originally granted land by Thomas Jefferson in the 1800s. Over the last 10 months, they've searched throughout the state for the burial sites of their ancestors with the help of an anthropologist. That's how they learned the Franklin County Prison is set to be built, they say, on one of their sacred burial sites.
We just hope that the governor will communicate with us about this particular site. These type of things need to be handled differently moving forward.
Chickamauga Nation says they hope the state will avoid areas where their ancestors are buried when building the prison. We reached out to the Arkansas Department of Corrections, who sent us a statement. It says, in part, the department has been mindful of concerns of a possible Native American grave site, but no evidence of a burial site has been found to date. Well, taking a look at some more of the dozens of bills Governor Sanders has signed into law as a mid-session break arrives, House Bill 1610 will amend 2 Arkansas acts and clear up the rules for when a mother is in danger and an abortion is warranted. House Bill 1609 will increase the penalty for anyone who recruits a child into sex trafficking from places where they're at risk. And Senate Bill 304 focused on voting. It will allow your vote to count if you move to a new county, as long as you get updated registration to your new clerk before the polls close on Election Day. Well, as we approach the 1-year anniversary of the Memorial Day weekend tornadoes, Rogers residents are still waiting to gain full access to their public library. The city of Rogers gave 5 News reporter Kayla Davis an update on those needed repairs.
What used to be a place for people of all ages to come and enjoy activities, read books, and use all the space the Rogers Public Library has to offer has been reduced to just one small area open to the public after the May 2024 tornadoes damaged the building. Diana Jones, a longtime resident of Rogers, says the limited access has been inconvenient for her family.
This was a place I would bring my kids to do free activities. Some families don't have extra money to go do anything else that you want to do during spring break, costs money. So this was a nice little getaway from your house.
While other libraries like the Fayetteville Public Library and Bentonville Public Library are open,
I want to stay in Rogers because I'm from Rogers, and I want to keep coming and patronizing my Rogers establishments.
But Peter Massones with the city says it could be a while.
The first initial engineering studies that came through recommended patching of the roof. We do feel it's a very important community fixture, and we want to see it built back better. And so we actually went and got a second engineering study done, which has recommended replacing the roof. And so where we're at right now is we're waiting for FEMA to accept that second engineering study.
Massones says getting pre-approval from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, is crucial to ensure the city can afford the repair.
Getting the 75% reimbursement is pretty important for wise use of taxpayer dollars.
And that takes time.
You know, obviously we want to expedite this thing as much as possible, but we want to see it built back as well as possible. So we do continue to ask for patience from the residents of Rogers and those who have been using the library.
Meanwhile, Diana encourages the city to ask for more public input.
It'd be my hope that they maybe ask us maybe before they even start construction. Like, I'd be open to that if they told me they're going to reopen bigger and better. I'd be okay with a longer timeline, as long as I know that even though my kids might not benefit from it, other families will benefit from having a library comparable to a Bentonville Fayetteville library.
In Rogers, covering news where you live, Kayla Davis, 5 News.
Well, Rogers firefighter says he is just happy that his family is safe and alive following a fire that destroyed much of their Spiro, Oklahoma home last weekend. 5 News reporter Jacob Luthi visited the damage in Spiro and has more on the response from local firefighters as they look to help one of their own recover.
It was around 11 p.m. Sunday night when Rogers firefighter Paul Lynn says he got the call you never expect to get. His wife telling him that his own house was on fire. Lynn says he rushed to hug his wife and 5-year-old son after he drove from work in Rogers to get to his home in Spiro, Oklahoma. By the time he had gotten there, much of the interior of his house had burned. 3 different agencies and over 20 fire personnel responded to the call. Lynn says his wife told him that earlier in the night, she had heard someone trying to get into the back door shortly after the fire was seen. When Lynn assessed the damage, he said he noticed abnormalities near the back porch that led him to believe the fire was an act of arson. A GoFundMe set up by a fellow firefighter has already amassed over $14,000. Lynn says as of right now, he has no idea who or what might have been responsible, but says the response from his firefighter family has been incredible.
My captains, my chiefs, every shift up there. If I would have said yes to everyone yesterday, there wouldn't have been a single Rogers firefighter on duty. They would all have been in my front yard, but we're just at a standstill. I don't know. It's unexplainable, the emotions behind. Everyone says the firefighter family's deep, but you don't really know how deep it is till something like this happens. And it's awesome. It's incredible.
Spiro Fire Chief Tony Gillespie tells me that there were enough unknowns and concerns about the incident that led them to call the Oklahoma Fire Marshal's office. They will be the ones conducting an arson investigation. In Spiro, covering news where you live, Jacob Luthi, 5 News.
Northwest Arkansas Community College announced a new master plan for its campus in Bentonville. The Board of Trustees approved the plan, which will guide the school over the next 5 to 20 years as Northwest Arkansas grows. The plan envisions growth for the college in both academics and integrated learning. They're also planning to grow the athletics and arts departments, adding options for on-campus housing and enhancing collaborations with local industries. Well, some Benton County residents fear that talks of new housing developments in Highfill could pose a risk to local bald eagles and their nest. 5 News reporter Jacob Luthi talked to a neighboring landowner who says the national bird should be protected.
Talking about our national bird. This is the bald eagle.
Chris Long says his family has owned land in Benton County for over 100 years.
We're on property out here that's been in my family since 1908.
Long says talks of new housing developments in the city of Highfill not only threaten the quiet, rural life many in the county seek, but he's also worried about bald eagles many locals have come to appreciate as neighbors.
It is a symbol of America's liberty and freedom, and to see something that awesome, jeopardized with encroaching housing developments and stuff is something that we are obviously very concerned with.
Highfill City Planning Commission records show that in the last few years, developer D.R. Horton has shown interest in developing land that borders Long's business and family property, and includes an eagle's nest. In a statement to 5 News, Northwest Arkansas Division President for D.R. Horton, Scott Partlow, says in part, D.R. Horton recognizes the importance of environmental stewardship and is committed to protecting the environment in the communities in which we construct and sell homes. It goes on to say, once the bald eagle nest was brought to our attention, we hired a third-party environmental consultant to perform a study on the site. If we purchase the property, we plan to follow guidance from the third-party environmental consultant, in addition to the terms of the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act and the Migratory Bird Treaty Act on how to proceed with the nest.
We were told over and over and over again by D.R. Horton the nest was inactive. And we knew better because we see it all the time.
Just last fall, the city of Highfill imposed a 180-day pause on large housing developments to allow the city to assess infrastructure needs and impacts on residents. Long says he and his family are not against inevitable Northwest Arkansas growth. They just want to see it done correctly.
We know that Northwest Arkansas is growing. We know that it's developing. You're not going to stop that. But we just don't understand why Highfill won't embrace a different format of housing that doesn't have to be so dense.
According to Long, the uncertainty of being able to see the country's national symbol is just one more side effect of the area's growth.
We can go to city council meetings, we can talk about the Eagles being present, we can talk about they're a staple of the community, but at the end of the day, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of homes is probably going to win out, and that would be sad to see.
In Highfill, covering news where you live, Jacob Luthi, 5 News.
5 News did reach out to Highfill Mayor Chris Holland, but did not hear back. The Army Corps of Engineers says it is permanently closing 2 swim beaches on Beaver Lake. The beaches are the Rocky Branch and Lost Bridge South beaches. They're both on the Benton County side of the lake, and they are being closed due to erosion and safety issues. Both of those areas will still remain open for shoreline access. Well, housing remains the #1 priority for Fayetteville Mayor Molly Ron. She took office a little over 2 months ago, but is highlighting some things her administration has already accomplished, as well as sharing her goals for the future. 5 News reporter Lauren Spencer has some of her points from her State of the City address.
She was sworn in only 10 weeks ago, but Fayetteville Mayor Molly Ron says she and her administration have hit the ground running.
We have taken bold steps to improve how our city operates, to cut red tape, and to make our government more responsive to the people.
Housing remains top of mind for Mayor Ron just as much as it did during her campaign.
I am committed to supporting creative solutions, new ideas and development, and improving our infrastructure to ensure that we effectively address the challenges before us.
She says the city is working to streamline the permitting process, adding it will help the construction of much-needed housing.
By the third quarter of this year, we will see a 1/3 reduction in the time it takes to receive project approvals.
Highlighting the long-awaited 71B corridor project.
My administration is committed to modernizing this corridor and making it a truly walkable and accessible space where housing and businesses can thrive.
She says in the months ahead, she'll be announcing a bond issue that will improve water and sewer systems.
It is time to stop reacting to problems as they arise and plan forward smartly.
And as the city grows, she says every neighborhood deserves investment.
My administration is committed to ensuring that no part of our city is overlooked and that all residents, no matter where they live, benefit from our city's progress.
In Fayetteville, covering news where you live, Lauren Spencer, 5 News.
The City Council also decided not to take action on an ordinance that would lay out all fees when applying to rent in the city. It requires that all costs must be disclosed clearly and in a manner that's easily visible to potential tenants. The council said it wanted more input from the city's Housing Crisis Task Force and from landlords. And Bentonville police say a cyclist remains in the hospital after a serious crash. This happened near one of the city's busiest intersections. 5 News reporter Jose Carranza shows us how the city is working to make the roads safer.
The aftermath of Tuesday's crash has cyclists and city leaders on alert. In Bentonville, cycling isn't just recreational, it's a way of getting around. But with more riders on the roads, safety is becoming a bigger concern.
There's 34,000 cars a day go down 14th Street in that location. It's very important to get some separation vertically there.
City leaders are focusing on infrastructure, building paths and tunnels to keep cyclists away from traffic.
The safest thing you can do, in my belief, and as a professional engineer, we do a lot of research on these things, get the cyclist above or below the road and the pedestrians, so put them in a bridge or a tunnel.
We caught Jason McCann and his wife Sandy crossing the same intersection where just 24 hours earlier, a cyclist was hit.
I want to go home to my wife and son, but I also want to enjoy riding my bike. And I don't want them to get the phone call of, hey, he was riding, somebody wasn't paying attention, he's dead.
They say safety is one of the reasons they travel from Springfield to visit the area.
There's a few areas that are bike path friendly, but most of it is, you don't even want to be out on a bike on most of the roads, where here, they make it very accessible for bikes.
Longtime cyclist Brett McCormick with the Bentonville Moves Coalition says the intersection of 8th and 8th Streets is an example of safety first design, with separate paths and visual cues. Even then, he says everyone should be extra careful on the roads.
I would plead that we all have an abundance of caution and care for our fellow man when we're looking out, whether you're driving the automobile or you're riding the bike. Take special care whenever you're crossing high traffic intersections like this.
In Bentonville, covering news where you live, Jose Carranza, 5 News.
Well, Google says it's taking legal action against scammers who manipulated searches on its Maps app. The company says it discovered about 10,000 profiles that created fake businesses or took over existing business listings and replaced them with another number. Google's general counsel explains how consumers are impacted.
Effectively, it's a bait and switch. They called the number listed on the listing. The person connected them with a different locksmith than the business that was listed. And once that locksmith arrived to the home, they might charge a significantly higher price for that service.
Google says it has removed scam profiles from Google Maps and filed lawsuits against individuals who created those fake profiles. Well, as we head into spring break week, maybe looking for some fun things to do around town, 5 News This Morning anchors Tiffany Lee and Joe Ellison give us an inside look at one local spot on this week's episode of Around the Corner.
5 News Around the Corner is sponsored by Ghirardelli Chocolate.
Your cup of coffee in the morning and that little quick interaction can make or break your day, and I like to think that we make a lot of days.
All right, if you're a coffee lover, this one's the best, and right here in our own backyard.
Yeah, we're here in downtown Rogers at Onyx Coffee Lab.
Yeah, the world's 100 best coffee shops has named them #2 in the world and #1 best coffee in North America.
And while we're not surprised, we're here to find out the answers for you, why they were named that. We're here with Alika, and he's gonna show us around behind the scenes.
Whether you just want to come in and have a $2 cup of coffee, you're going to have that, or whether you want a fancy coffee, I like that it reflects the community around it and not just a certain demographic or certain stereotype. This is all the different kinds for the week.
This is just for the week? Oh.
Just for the week mostly. And then what you can kind of hear is our coffee roastery. This is where most of our production blends are getting finished. So this is green unroasted coffee. So this is how we receive it in those packages. So our fun little Wonkavator, all of our roasted product is getting vacuumed downstairs. This is our optical color sorter. So this is where that Wonkavator leads to. It separates the coffee into a single layer and then uses little puffs of air to kick out defective beans. So you can see fairly uniform in color and size. And if I pull out a handful of what it has rejected, we have some darker beans, we have some lighter beans. And this is our training lab. So you can see the same mod bar espresso setup that we have upstairs. Well, before you leave, let's hop behind bar. Why don't we get y'all trained up a little bit?
Let's do it and learn how to make coffee.
I'm gonna pass you off to Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
She is our head of research and development as well as public education. So you are in good hands.
We're gonna make some drinks.
Okay,
You're gonna make some customer drinks for us.
Okay,
We're
okay.
pretty excited. So this is the espresso machine here. Put that in the grinder, push it in all the way, let go. Oh, hold on, it's gonna,
Oh no.
I'm gonna put this in my tamper, which is back here, and we're gonna go ahead and put it back in the group head. Pull snug, as tight as you can on that.
Check it out.
It's full in espresso. Seconds of aeration, and then I just submerge the whole steam wand. Put your hand down here. We wanna feel for temperatures, and then you're just gonna stay right there until it's too hot to touch. And then I'm gonna get down low and pour that little part on top.
Wow.
Pour a little heavier, move out to the middle. Out heavy, 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 heavy. There you go. Up and through. Nice. We got a blob.
I got a blob.
Pour heavy, heavy, heavy. Keep going, heavier, heavier. Up and through. There you go. Nice.
Yes.
I tried to do something.
You got some good contrast. That was awesome.
Vanessa, thank you so much for teaching us everything there is to know about a great cup of coffee. And Tiffany, you did pretty good.
You did great.
You did great.
Picasso.
Cheers,
Where to
ladies.
go. Cheers. Enjoy.
Well, that'll do it for your 5+ weekend wrap. Don't forget, you can get all your local news, weather, and sports on demand 24/7 right here on 5+. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.